Almost as bad as losing a football match is having to deal with the way the media treats Arsenal after losing a football match. And so I think today we're all thinking the same thing. God bless you, Mohamed Salah. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot. Think about me on Twitter, Gunner. Yeah, Mohamed Salah, we owe you a big thank you here in the Arsenal world for knocking us right off the back page by essentially dropping an atom bomb into your relationship with Liverpool Football Club. I'm almost tempted to do a podcast about that because then we don't have to talk about the Villa game. If you're listening to this, well, if you're not listening to this, then the next thing I'm going to say is going to be pretty irrelevant. But if you're listening, you probably noticed the title of this pod is Unrecognizable Arsenal Suffers Painful Defeat. And I do think that a big portion of the conversation today is going to be why we felt unrecognizable from the team that we had been. I do want to say the instant reaction, I just want to make one comment about it. It was emotional. And there was some analysis that differed. There were some divergent perspectives on it. One of the things that made me really appreciate, though, is the friendship that I have with Paul and Clive and Tim and Scott and Phil and the audience we have, because it was a rare example, I think, of disagreement in an emotional moment where it was done respectfully and articulately. And I think people have come back and said that they appreciated and enjoyed listening to that. So I just want to say, we're going to analyze this loss today. And one thing I find when we lose is everybody's got their diagnosis and they want to hear us agree with their diagnosis. And we may agree with yours and we may not. But we have the wonderful luxury of having you to feed back to us, to tell us what we missed, to tell us what we got right. Discussing losses is more interesting at times because there's more interesting things to say. But I think it can be harder because we all see a thing that we want to pick at as the scab, as the thing that needs to be gotten at. So hopefully we'll get at the things that you want us to get at. We'll pick at the scabs you want us to pick. But if we don't, get in touch. Like, this is the beautiful thing, right? It's a little more interesting than this boring celebrating wins every 3 days. Beating Bayern, beating Spurs. Yeah, that's fun, but this is interesting. Oh boy. I'm not sure. Already people are going to be disagreeing with me in the comments. But that's okay. I've got some merch in hand. If you want to get some merch in hand, look at our beautiful mugs. They're so nice. This one says, because it's the Clive mug, it's just football, mate. But yeah, you can go to shop.arsenalvisionpodcast.com. By the way, the patron promo code, they expired it for some reason. I don't know why. So you can use the new one, RICE50. RICE50 is a new code if you want half off Patreon. Okay, enough of that. 2.5 minutes. That's pretty quick for me. You know what? No, I'm not going to make the joke. Okay, here with me now is Paul. Hello, Paul.
Woohoo!
And Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
Hello, indeed. Okay, so let's just get this off the top, Clive. This one really, really hurt. And it's who we lost to. It's the scars we have from losing to them before. It's the way the other results obviously went in the weekend. It's the manner of the loss. And I realize in the cold light of day, we only lost a point. But doing it at the death, it feels like a hammer blow. And the thing that I was really feeling in the wake of it, I was like, those kind of gut punches aren't the thing that feels like happens to a title-winning team. But I've stepped back. I've had a chance to really analyze it. And as the sort of emotional pain of it has subsided, I think it is just a reminder that a title race is hard. There's going to be a couple more losses and a few more draws this season, and we're going to have to hold our nerve when those come around too. So where's your head at? Because my head was on Mars 2 days ago. I'm trying to get it down to maybe like the moon today. Where's yours?
Yeah, it was just a point. And I've done what lots of people have done, which is rewatch the game. And there were lots and lots of good things in there. You know, we still look like Arsenal and we still put a huge amount of effort in. And there was also some red flags for me about our balance and where we're heading and the type of feedback certain individual players got, which felt very similar to last year. So that maybe triggered me a little bit in the instant reaction, because in the cold light of day, it's just 1 point. But for me, the most important thing are the lessons that we learned from this game, about the balances all over the pitch. And I think that's really key. And for me, the only time I get agitated is not on actions, but on inefficient use of resources and not maximizing players' potential because of their positioning on the pitch. Maybe that's the same thing, right? Because players' actions, mistakes will happen and they'll happen forevermore. Substitutions, bad ones, will happen forevermore. Lineups, bad ones, will happen forevermore. If you can always keep that balance and that structure in place, and you have the ability to look at a game of football versus the type of team we're playing against, I'm all right with it. If you get chin, you get chin. But I felt this Villa team was a team that we should have read a little bit better and selected a team accordingly. And there are some structural things. I won't do it all now, Elliot. There are some structural things which I feel we have decisions to make about. And if we make them, forget this game. It won't matter. We'll win the league. You know, because that structure is so important to how we are, how we define our results, that impregnability, our relationships, our pairs, our pods, how we do it. If that's in place, we're good. Honestly, we'll be good. If we start to make decisions which affect that structure, and we see a game like that, which we could easily have won, but we've drawn a lot of them last season, and we definitely lost a couple. So that's the thing that concerns me, not this game, because there were some heroic performances in the context of this game.
Yeah, I have to agree that structurally there were some things that were wrong that I really want to dig into. I think even more than individual performances, and there are a couple of individual performances that will certainly need to be highlighted, I want to try to understand the structural component. I do think that some of this, Paul, feels like just we went through last season and no one learned anything, because we all know why last season failed to deliver on the promise that we had going into it. And I think we're kind of back in a similar situation. If you look at the identity of this team is that it is a strong team defensively. If you want the identity of this team to be a dynamic attacking team that scores 100 goals, I can tell you it won't live up to that hope. It is not going to be that team. At least I don't expect it to be. This is a team that needs to win games 2-0 and 1-0 to win a title, to win anything. If it cannot be sound defensively, then it cannot do any of the other things that it bases that on. We play low event games. We play boring for the neutral football. That's who we are, and that's how we win. This was a game of immense action, of high event, of 43 touches in our penalty box. That's not the identity of this Arsenal. And I cannot look past the two superstar center backs, who may be the two best in the world and certainly the best partnership in the world, who provide our calm, our line height, our compactness, and who handle first time the kinds of fires that we were not able to put out in this game. And I cannot look past their absence as the fundamental starting point for analyzing this game. There are more interesting things to say about it, because the one thing I have learned from the last year is nobody who listens to this podcast thinks, well, we had injuries, is an interesting discussion. But I do think there's a tendency sometimes to go looking for what's interesting to discuss, even if the thing that's not interesting to discuss explains it. So I need to ask you, Paul, how much of this do we need to accept is at least the orange, the basis of it, the foundation of it, is the absence of those two colossus that usually stand at the center of our defense and calm everything down and keep all of our distances right.
Yeah, I think that's basically where I did my little rewatch, had a bit of think of things, and the simplest way to distill it out is we had way too much chaos in and around our half without the ball, and that is most unusual, most unique. It almost defines us. What are we known as? The team that doesn't have chaos in their half, that when we don't have the ball, we have the best shape of any team in football. Well, you wouldn't have known that in the Aston Villa game. And like, there were things we could do tactically, tweaks you could make, personnel you could make, though I don't know that he had a huge amount of choices in terms of personnel. We saw even when he brought on Trossard, he had to take him off again because he didn't actually have 45 minutes in his legs. He had about 41 minutes. So he didn't have a huge amount of choices. Maybe the first half didn't play out to plan, to say the least. But the second half, he had, at that point, the pick of his personnel. He had learned his lessons. But the chaos was still the chaos. And, like, that was the defining... Like, you'd look at Timber and Hincapié, and you wouldn't say they played bad games individually, and it wasn't even just about the centre-backs. But your references, you know... Rice mentioned references a few games ago but he was talking about the other team. But our references, like the most important references in terms of our side of the pitch, and the off-ball moments, those two references were gone. And like for me, the defining moment, let me jump to a defining moment in the game that calls it out for me. I think if you look at almost all the big moments, there's a little bit of center back chaos in there in almost every moment. Look, every counterattack they had, it seemed, was dangerous. That is not Arsenal, right? And you can say we shouldn't have had so many counterattacks against us, but you can also say they shouldn't all have been dangerous. And it's not an individual issue. It's references and shape and people known and people pointing and people knowing who to look to. And the first goal, the Matty Cash goal, I don't know why we call him Matty Cash. It implies we like him. We don't like him.
We don't have to call him Matty Cash.
Well, what do you call him? Cash?
You just call him Matt.
Matthew Cash.
Yeah.
Getting in there at the back post, and your eye goes to a few things, but like I watched it more and more, and the one thing I couldn't get past is Saliba doesn't flick that ball into the middle of our box and have it bounce there, and nobody's in sight. And it's not just Saliba, but he's kind of, and I ain't no centre back coach, but I just don't see Saliba standing there. I never see that flick into the most lusciously cleared area of the pitch. I looked at Calafiore and I think, should he be standing there? Should he have swapped with Eze? Should he be so worried about the guy in front of him that he's not covering the space behind him? And Eze already knows he's screwed up, and like he blinks, his weight's the wrong way for a second. He's checking, then he misses the run. But also, neither of them are expecting that ball to bounce off Timber's noggin. Raya isn't expecting it. And like, again, I'm not putting it on Timber because I think Timber did many good things in this game and manfully and gainfully tried to do the centre-back thing, but he is not the reference. And Hincapié is not yet the reference as a centre-back. And that was weird. That ball bouncing in so much space off Timber's noggin was weird. And it was replicated in some form or other 6, 7, 8 times on counters. And it's not about, I'm not saying it's the centre backs, it's the whole reference, that whole shape. And the final goal from them is like, it's chaos.
That's the point. We play games that are much calmer, less interesting, low event, in part because we handle those situations more cleanly and they don't develop into the second ball opportunities or the opportunities the ball comes back to you. I actually think a really interesting way to access this game, Clive, from an analysis standpoint, is out of possession and in possession. Because I think the in possession conversation focuses on certain players and certain dynamics, but I want to stay with the out of possession conversation first, if you don't mind. And I don't just want to make it Saliba and Gabriel were out, although Mikel spoke well on that, and I'll give you those quotes in a moment. I do want to ask you, though, about that, because I mentioned the 43 touches in the box, and the picture, my picture in this game is them running through us in central areas, them being able to find ways to play through the middle, through us. And that's just something I can't really picture happening very often. So I saw this as an unrecognizable performance out of possession. And if our identity is the best out of possession team in the world, which is what we've been called for a couple of seasons, this certainly was not that. So do you want to help, other than just the injuries, which are the obvious answer and probably correct, diagnose the out of possession problems that we had with this game? Oh, but you are on mute. See, Paul, we love you, and every once in a while we pay homage to you and our love for you. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
It does start with the centre backs. There's been two major things that have happened with our team in the last few weeks. We lost our 2 centre backs, which are everything what we build from. We've lost one on occasions and been absolutely fine, but to lose 2 means that the other guy, we got 2 I call non-alphas. Basically, we're defending with 4 fullbacks. There's an argument to say that the 2 best centre backs are playing fullback in this game. And
we lost 3 centre backs actually, so our best fullback isn't even playing fullback.
Yeah, but you could say that there's another way to balance this out by saying put Timber and Hincapié as your fullbacks, and we could be more balanced, right? So because we're better in the ball, and then maybe because we've done that, we've kept Timber and Hincapié there. What we've done is that we've brought Zubimendi in between the 2, when he jumps in front at a time, and we tried to make Hincapié and Timber like wide centre backs because it suits their profile a bit better. So structurally, what we've done, and this is my issue with this, I've got many issues with this team. I didn't like this team, didn't like start 11, didn't like it for this opposition completely. I felt we misread the game, misread their strength, which was their fullback pushing into wide areas, their 4 centre mids, 2 centre mids starting wide, rolling into the middle of the pitch, which meant it needed to be a much more narrow game. We had to decide how we're going to manage the wide areas. And what was happening was Rodgers was pulling White inside, and Calafiori is already inside, which gave them the opportunity to spin into our wide areas, which was a challenge for us. So we looked unstructured, right? So what has Arsenal's structure been this season, right? So pre-season, we're a little bit lumpy against Villarreal. Against Athletic Bilbao, we saw the first double pivot of the season, and I loved it. They took turns when to go into either side of the centre-backs. We had a 3, but we always had that ability to look at a game develop. And so we were playing a lot more in what I call 2s. We had clear pairs, Timber and Saka, Calafiori and Trossard, double pivot, 2 centre-backs, and a double 10. And I really liked it. And the reason why I like it is, from that situation, we have structure. No one can run our 6 down the middle, right? So you can't do it. But plus, you can see what a team is doing. You can develop your game from there. People said we wasted first halves. Not me. I quite liked them. I thought we were quite good in the first half here, by the way. Much better on second rewatch. But that structure I really like, right? So what we then developed into, since the centre-backs have gone, we've gone back to structures of 3s again. So the 3 at the back, Declan Rice developing a 3 on the left, Odegaard developing a 3 on the right, an isolated centre forward that's not really a centre forward that likes to roll into the right, but he can't roll into the right because someone's already there, right? So Zubimendi's now getting the stick that our last centre mid used to get, wide spaces, having to manage it. Why is that? Because we've been overly aggressive, pushed our fullbacks on early, pushed Rice on early. If we have, and Arteta spoke about 3 passes going wrong. Well, I watched the 3 passes, by the way. Saka, Trossard did one. Can't remember the last one. I think Eze Mata did one. And they broke in and got massive chances on the back of that, right? So, but if we have the ability to be behind the ball a little bit longer, to then arrive into space rather than standing in space, then we are in a better position to manage the counter. And I really felt we were set up wrong. We also didn't have a threat on the areas that they were going to empty, which is fullback areas. We had one penetrative striker, which was Saka, and Eze was just standing there redundant. The type of feedback we used to give Martinelli last season, Trossard last season, anyone standing at left-hand side, we would kill them because they were totally not in the game. They were disconnected from the game. When we play in pairs now, we have what I call a much better span of control. Responsibilities are shared amongst the pairs, amongst the grouping. We cover the pitch and we have diversity of play on the ball. We have diversity of play off the ball. That span of control has now flipped to last year's span of control, which is our right-hand side attack. Really, really good. All those players had half-decent games. I personally wouldn't have liked Ben White to be out of the pitch a little bit more, but had really good games. But that's not enough for me. That's not how you develop a team that's going to be consistently showing a different face attacking-wise over a broader season. So through injury, that could be one cause, but also adding a right-sided 10 versus a central 10, and the right-sided 10, what he tends to do is create associations with our right side. Our previous 10 creates association with our centre forward. And that's a big difference to our threat, to how we play, to where we lose the ball, which then leads to counter-attacks. And so there's nothing wrong. It's almost like, what could you get if you kept your structures quite similar? You could get Zubimendi pushing into the corner flag like he did to get the corner against Bayern Munich. He's not going there in this game because he's got everybody in front of him. So he now sits away, and now he's in wide spaces getting criticised for managing wide spaces. That's happened for years. So we have to decide what we want to do and what we want to be. And if you want to be this team of 3s, then we better get a centre forward that's going to do it. We really do. Because then we're looking at why we're not scoring in that situation. So that's where my frustration, I thought I got rid of it, but it's come back. That's where my frustrations come from. It's not from what we did. It's that we're doing what we always do. And that means we haven't got this balance. And if I don't see balance or misuse of resources, that's the only time I get frustrated.
Yeah, I feel like there's been an evolution of Arsenal this season, and the first half, really this whole game, looked like a devolution back to a previous version. It's like we hit, version 2.0 and we went back to version like 1.8 here. Clive, Paul, what do you think of that? Just the way our structure was set up. And in this game, I don't want to lean on the fatigue excuse because everybody's tired right now. Like Villa should be as tired as we are, right? At least in theory. So I don't want to use fatigue. You can use fatigue for like a player like Marino who's played a lot, but really if you look at minutes, actually, none of our players are currently at a minutes level that's really any higher than some of the bigger players in the league anyway. So rather than leaning on fatigue, I'd rather look at tactical explanations. And this game did not feel like it suited Marino at all. I'm not sure it felt like it before kickoff. It certainly didn't feel like it after kickoff. There's nowhere for him to drop into in midfield because there's just no room there. And there's nowhere for him to run in behind because the defenders are too quick for him. So what's his role supposed to be? Sometimes the players fail you and sometimes you set up the players to fail. And this felt like the latter for Marino. But I was surprised and maybe a little concerned that Gyokeres didn't get the start here, given those dynamics. And I'm curious what you think of that, just the inability for the center forward to influence the game then, and how like maybe some cascading effects from that.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned I'm not sure what choices Arteta felt he had when the game started. I mean, Gyokeres did not display to me that he was match sharp, match ready, tuned in.
It's worrying, right? That because this feels like a tailor-made game for Gyokeres, though, in terms of the dynamic. I think it's worrying for Gyokeres that Mikel wanted to start the converted midfielder over his expensively acquired striker in a game where you need someone who has the ability to push those quick center backs back into their box. That's my perspective on it. And then his performance did nothing to dissuade me of that perspective.
Well, I did not expect before he played that he'd be dialed in. Like we've seen this. He's a little heavier. Takes a few games to get going. I think we just have to accept that. It's
like the car, starting the car, you got to get it rolling down the hill and then the engine can start.
Yeah. So it did not shock me. I mean, I'd love if he was like, you can say what you like about Martin Odegaard, but he's ready to go. You put him in there, he snaps straight through it, to it. But I did not expect that of Gyokeres. And I wouldn't expect it of Marino if he was out for a while. There's certain players you say, probably going to take a couple of games to click in there. Now, when he's a bit more bedded into the team and it's more natural for Gyokeres, I could see it not being 3 games. It might be a couple of half games. But totally not shocked that Marino started. There was a lot of dialogue about, well, you can't drop Marino based on the run he was on. Now, I'm his biggest fan. Sole member of the Irish Marino fan club, I suspect. But
Marino men of Ireland.
Yeah, I would have been totally fine with dropping him for this game had there been a better option.
Can I stop you for 1 second and just make an observation, though?
Yeah.
I agree with you that Gyokeres needs to play himself into fitness and form and things like that. But interesting, to start the season, when Kai went out, it wasn't Marino that played 9. Mikel let Gyoke just play through it, try to play himself into shape at the start of the season. He did not feel he could do that here for whatever that means, Yeah,
I don't think that's a contradiction. It's like, why would you assume Marino is going to be a super duper striker again? And it's not how you plan to play the season. Like, just get if you're going to get him up to speed, get him up to speed. It was kind of tailor-made for Gyokeres to start and get going. And we lived with it. And like, we had a lot of other issues as well. If you were to slam Gyokeres for the early start of the season, we had plenty of other issues going on in the top half of the pitch.
Yep.
So yeah, it took time. Anyway, I wasn't shocked that he didn't deem Gyokeres ready for this start, and it doesn't freak me out. It'll freak me out if it takes him 3 or 4 games to get good, as opposed to 1.5. So that was the Gyokeres decision. Okay, I understand why Marino would start, but I didn't like it because the best Marino and Eza performances we have seen, I think, are with Marino starting centrally and drifting into the right 8 space where Odegaard is. So that's a problem. It's you're going to be on each other's toes if that's what you do. And maybe we maybe that was or wasn't a problem, but it didn't do Marino any favors. It didn't do us any favors. We already had somebody there. If it wasn't him, it was White, or it was even Timber going up into that space, because either by design or because he sometimes forgot how much of a centre back he was supposed to be. He was right up there where you would have thought, oh, he must be playing right back today. So we had lots to cover on that side. Meanwhile, Eze, the best performances we've seen with him, I think, are him and Marino basically vacating space for each other. So Marino would drift right, and Eze would move from the left 8 into that central area, the zone 14 in front of the penalty area part of the box. And of course, here he had to cover the left-hand side to some degree and watch out for a fullback charging forward. And we didn't really have anything to connect with him on that side. So it was almost, I think it was almost the manager didn't feel he had a lot of choice because Trossard wasn't ready. He made a decision on Martinelli versus Eze, and maybe he didn't think Martinelli was ready for 70, 80 minutes, or he didn't fancy our chances of getting a lot of, like, you could certainly second guess that at this point and say Martinelli at least will do the defensive side on that side. But at half-time, he made his choice, and what he really wanted was Trossard for some more control to be able to hold the ball up that end of the pitch, and for some on-pitch intelligence. So those two personnel, had they been used differently, I think could have done a lot better in this game, but they don't fit with Odegaard at right. And if anybody's hearing a criticism of Martin Odegaard in my voice, that's not it. I thought he had somewhere between a pretty good and a very good game. There are things you can absolutely say about his performance and everybody else's and the tactical setup. Overall, I thought Martin Odegaard was really good, but he that selection kind of undid a little bit of the Marino-Eze chemistry.
Yeah, Clive?
Yeah, it's difficult, right? So when you introduce a player like Martin Odegaard, who has a natural ability to want to influence many parts of the pitch, you have to then think about his impact to others. So in this game, he started this game, but okay, some of the structural things, if Timber was there, I wonder what would have happened on the right-hand side if we had our centre-backs there. But in this game, it affected our double pivot pairs because we seem to have a slightly different structure with them. If moving Eze out, it affected him. It affected Marino. And then you say to yourself, Martin Odegaard was probably one of our best players. So Saka got his normal overuse when Odegaard's there because he gives him the ball a lot. So Saka's performance was probably normal. Do you see what I mean? He had to probably do a little bit more longer sprints because his fullback double. You look at some of the average positions, Timber's like 3 feet away from him. They're like twins. They defend together and attack together. So he has managed to cope without his number 10 partner inside. And so I think it's the strengthening, I'm not sure that's the right word.
Weakening?
Weakening of other players. Now, some of those players just played rubbish. So I'm not trying to blame their bad performances on the fact that we had one of our better performers playing in this game. But I do think the associative qualities that Odegaard has, which is one-side dynamic, particularly on the right, has taken away some of our connections and our partnerships and our groupings to allow us to be more effective across the whole continental quilt of Arsenal football team structure, and also to allow us to negate counters. So the selection was, Paul's right, I do feel against Villa, you need a couple of sprinters on the outside. I'll be honest with you, you do. So you've got to make a decision. You've got to make a decision. It's Eze or Odegaard for this game. Because what you will see in this game on some of those out-of-possession snapshots is them coming back and not looking as sprightly when they're coming back, which means we've already got our distances wrong. We're not compact enough. There's a clip on the manager saying, compact, be compact. Well, for me, that's on you. That's on you, mate. Sorry, that's on you. Because we've been ultra aggressive. Our fullbacks are on the last line continuously, inside, standing there, being half ignored, really, because the ball's not coming to them. So they're not affecting our attack and they're not affecting our defence. And we're stretching out midfielders to run into corners. And we're stretching out Hincapi, we're stretching out Timber because we wanted to affect the last line. when really we need to affect the outside of Villa. It's on the outside line, lane 4 and lane 5, switching it diagonals to move those big body centre mids around. They wanted us to do this. They wanted us to come in and put fullbacks into the interior where they've got McGinn and Rodgers and Nana and Tielemans. They don't want to be stretched out to the outside. So I thought we misread this game massively. By the way, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but we played some fantastic football within this.
Yeah.
And we should have
Yes,
we
we
should have
did.
gone one up. We should have gone one up before they even got. Their goal's a bit of a surprise. Watch the game again, honestly. It's a bit of a surprise when they scored. You know, there was a near miss. We played some fantastic football to create chances. This isn't when I say these things, people say, "But Clive, we did this, we did that, we did this." I'm talking about the future balance of our team when we're trying to introduce major pillars into our team structure. And if we're going to do what we did last year, I've got concerns that we're going to see the same issues at number 6 and on the left-hand side, wide left, and put a lot of onus on a centre forward to score. I felt, back to my earlier point, I felt the span of control and responsibilities were shared within twos. And I really liked the art of the possible in those twos, what we could develop. Otherwise, we're going to play in wide pods, mate. I've got concerns, Elliot. I'll be honest with you, I've got concerns.
Look, I think it's important to note we had 1.9 expected goals in this game, 15 shots, 9 on target, 4 big chances. You know where else we had 1.9 expected goals? The 4-1 victory over Tottenham. Any diagnosis of this game, ultimately, that focuses on Saka's end product or Marino at striker or Odegaard's end product, like any analysis that focuses on that is leading you down the wrong path. Our out-of-possession play was the problem in this game, and it cost us this game. We conceded 2.1. I mean, the irony is it was only 1.9 to 2.1. This wasn't a hammering. But you cannot concede 2.1 XG if you're Arsenal Football Club because we're not going to win games 4-3. It is not our identity. Clive?
Yeah, but what you're saying is, sorry, Paul, I chop you up
Sorry,
there,
Paul.
mate. I just want to say, well, you're saying that, you're right, but why? Because our structure wasn't right in the first place.
I totally agree. Yeah. But
it
I'm
wasn't
saying
right in the first place.
There's going to be, look, I'm guilty of this. I've learned so much from both of you and from Tim and Phil and Scott. Like, I am a events analysis oriented football watcher. I see the last action and I analyze it. Okay. I haven't been watching football as long as you guys. Okay. So I still have a lot to learn about analyzing what's happening in a game outside of the events. But I think event analysis is the wrong way to enter this game because it is not the last kick that was the problem. It was the shape, the compactness, the organization that led to all the events that wound up happening. And Paul, to your point, I do think the center backs contribute to that, certainly with the way the ball was not handled cleanly. I think we have to at least touch on it is not a good look to get hooked at halftime after you've been asleep for the goal. Period. End of story. It's not good. It's going to be painful for him, I'm sure. He was the hero in the North London derby. He's certainly not the hero in this game. But that's not Arsenal football getting switched off. And by the way, Saka gave a ball away cheaply early in the first half. I can't remember exactly when it was. I have it in my notes here. It was 29th minute. Gives it away in Villa counter, and that's when Rice had to make a fantastic block. But it's Eza completely sleeping, and Cash just kept running by him. They have so much running power, too. That's the thing. They can win in transition because of the running power that they have in that team. And I just don't think the setup and the out-of-possession play was sufficient to cope with it. Now, I want to be clear. I mentioned this in this reaction. I watched Villa. They should have knocked PSG out of the Champions League last season. They ran right through PSG at Villa Park last season. And by the way, for the people who are saying, well, this is evidence we're not going to win the title. If losing at Villa Park is evidence we're not going to win the title, I've got news for you. City aren't either because they lost at Villa Park. Okay? We need 17 more wins. 17 more wins and a draw here or there gets us to 86, 87 points, and that's going to be enough. So there's going to be 5 or 6 more games we draw or lose, and we're going to have to find ways to cope with it. But we're going to lose more than that if we play like this. So, Paul, for me, again, we have to understand, and I'm sure Mikel will understand it better than we'll ever get access to it, outside of just Saliba and Gabby fix this, which is the most obvious answer. The extent to which Villa found it too easy to get at us and our out-of-possession shape wasn't right is the problem for me. Do you think it's fair for Eza to be taking a big chunk of that blame because the goals decide games, but how do you think about him getting hooked at halftime and the way he was beaten for the goal?
So let me take it back one step further,
Yeah,
which
please.
is
Okay.
we clearly gave them the game they wanted, right?
By the way, you said this about Chelsea too, and that's why I'm a little worried. That's 2 games in a short span of time when I think we allowed teams to bait us into these kind of games.
I mean, talking about baiting us into a game. Hang on, I'm not going to go the direction you think I am, Elliot. I'm going to go the other direction.
At it, Paul.
Letting all that go. It's a new me, Elliot. I've turned over a new leaf.
Okay. Yeah.
A kinder, gentler me. Emi Martinez has the ball right at the start of the game. He has it at his feet. He has it on the ground, and he's literally inviting us to come and go for him, to press their back line. And we don't. And we stand there and we stand there. And then we do. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, guys, don't do what they want you to do. Do you remember that moment? The referee's watching. I'm like, he might get called for wasting time, Emi Martinez. He's just standing with the ball at his feet. Does this ring a bell with you, Elliot? Do you remember that moment?
No.
It's really, really exaggerated.
Mm-hmm.
He puts the ball at his feet. He's in his box. His players are around him, positioned to get a pass when we press him. We don't press him, and time goes by, and you feel like taking out your watch. It's like 10 seconds, 12 seconds. It looks like an impasse. To me,
but I'm sure it happened.
It's weird because it's so exaggerated. And then we decide, all right, if that's what you want, and Marino charges towards him, and he plays it to the other side, and they start to play it. And I'm like, that for me was the moment. It pissed me off, but maybe okay. Maybe we decided to press them, and obviously we clearly planned to press them. But it was almost a signal to me that they have a way they want us to play, and from that moment on, we played that way. And they wanted chaos in the middle. They wanted the ball bouncing around. Sometimes we'd get it, sometimes they'd get it. That was the game they wanted. They had their 4-2-2-2 or whatever it is down the middle. They were packing that area. They were okay for some ping pong. The ball squared out the side. Sometimes we'd get it, sometimes they get it. But that's their game. They wanted chaos. They wanted end to end. They got end to end. And so you come back to the Eze decision. Again, I don't know that Arteta felt he had a lot of personnel to choose from who could play 70 or so minutes. And it might be Martinelli versus Eze, or, I think he had to go with Marino, and maybe he had to go with Eze. But I don't think Eze and Odegaard is what you want in a basketball game. And they wanted the wings, and they certainly had the Matt Cash wing, and Calafiori's going to tend to head forward. And we just... If you step back and don't worry too much about the tactics, you'd say, this is a game they love, right? We might score, they might score, but they fancy this for 90-something minutes. And I don't think it was about fatigue either. I agree with you on that. We actually played a full game of football here with attacking football all the way through. Had we been a little bit more conservative, been a little bit more about controlling the game, shape, giving them a bit more of the ball in areas they aren't very good at it, passing it around the back, kind of moving it to side to side. Ironically, we've become a team that everybody said was too conservative how we approach games. This was maybe a point in the season which Arteta thought, this is big boy football, this is how champions play, you don't come to their place, and dial it back a bit.
It's almost like he was managing to the reaction to some other big away games. Like, I'll show you I'm not conservative. And it's
Now, I don't think that was... That's certainly the narrative, right? But I think it might just be he thinks that this is a team growing into who they are in a champions. This is what champions should do. That's his own authentic voice. And this was a game that very quickly... I feared it beforehand, and very quickly in this game, I'm like... This is the game they want, and I don't think you should do something different. Don't play the game they want. And maybe that is allow them to have more possession and make sure the possession we have is more controlled.
Yeah, it's so hard because I have so many conclusions I want to jump to about certain things in this game that I just worry if Saliba and Gabby had been there, those conclusions might look really stupid. Like, for example, I feel like Odegaard and Zubimendi felt very redundant in certain ways in this game. And I almost feel like you'd be fine with Rice at the base and Odegaard and Eze. Then you have someone to go stand in the middle, and you can have Martinelli running the touchline and defending his fullback. The whole balance just felt weird. And Clive, one thing we were doing that was really weird, and maybe it's because they're more comfortable in that space, we were splitting Nketiah and Timber really wide and having Zubi and Rice stand between them in the first phase of build-up. So, yeah, you want to talk about that a bit?
We did that second half at Chelsea as well. We put Rice in between them, and they were more comfortable as wide centre-backs. Well, I personally feel, and I've said this before, I think Hincapie is more of a full-back. And I think Ben White's more of a centre-back. And I just think, with my old-fashioned eye, I think that would work very nicely. But we haven't seen it before, so he's not going to try it. And so we've changed how we look, right? If we're making tackles edge of our box, something's already gone wrong. Something's gone wrong. So something's gone wrong. That means we've got too many people ahead of the ball, too early, standing in spaces. Right? So that's it. So look at the film. You just see people running back. When have we seen that this season?
No, never.
Yeah, they're not.
And you see people on their backsides, right, and sliding in and last-ditch tackle. Like, that tells you that's
structural.
Not us.
It's structural, and it's structural out of possession, and it's structural in possession. That was different. Now, different led us to 15 shots and 8 or 9 on target. And, opportunities to score the first goal before they scored, an opportunity to score the second goal after they've equalised. So we're not rubbish. Do you see what I mean? This is not rubbish. I'm just fearful of rocking up and doing what we did Bayern Munich away a couple of years ago. And everyone knows where we're going to our right-hand side and then getting stopped. What's the point of buying 8 players if we're going to do what we always did? And that's my worry. It doesn't mean we didn't play well. It doesn't mean that, there were obvious things that were wrong on the left-hand side in particular and at centre-forward, and Paul said it, Marino. Marino in the last game, which I saw live against Brentford, was man of the match by a clear distance. And he was dropping into that position where Odegaard stands, and he was turning around, he was solidifying our middle, he was making tackles in there, and he was turning around to people running into spaces. Right, so we changed that there. So he's now thinking, I better go to the left-hand side a little bit, try and combine over there. And it's not natural for him to be a continuity player. He tried, but he couldn't do it. And obviously then we're using him as a true centre-forward because he's now isolated. He's not playing in twos. So what happens then? When he's isolated, Elliot will call him a converted midfielder. Where some people last week were saying, is it about time we stop calling him a converted midfielder? He's actually our best centre-forward. That was a conversation last week. Yeah. He's been involved in 25 goals and assists this calendar year, something like that. And you get the balance wrong, and the conversation changes. Yeah. Then you ask yourself, what's changed? And this is the thing that we should be able to ask these questions about what's changed. Say we're doing well, say players are doing really well, had really good games, but we should challenge that this was not the best version of Arsenal. It wasn't.
Just to draw a line into that, do you remember the City game last season where we got sent down to 10 men and held on and they got the 2-2 at the death? We spent the second half, and we were criticized for it, which still makes me angry, defending in our box, literally, right? Yeah. For an entire half of football. They had 55 touches in our box in that game. Villa had 43 in this game.
Wow.
It just cannot happen. And I look, in my mind, if I close my eyes and I think about Arsenal, I picture Saliba and Gabby standing on the halfway line, which means Rice and Zubi are higher, which means Odegaard and Eze and Marino are higher, and there's more compactness and the lines are tighter. And maybe
there's more dominance.
There is more dominance, but like the way you exert control is you squeeze them so that they cannot get out, because then when you lose the ball, you only have to run 1 yard to get back to it. When the lines get spread out, a loss of possession means that they can play. And there's a great video Kimmo, I think, on Twitter put out showing how when they won the ball back, their midfielders were standing in space where they could be given the ball easily and run at us. And that's because the distances are too stretched out, Clive.
Yeah. And what they were doing in it, and this is something that Tim pointed out before, he reminded me actually, because I'd forgotten. And sometimes they play Rodgers as a wide, sometimes they play him as a 10, and they vary. In this game, they played him out wide and begin out wide, and they roll off the sides. And what they're trying to do is attract us inside and then have the fullbacks run beyond.
Yep.
So we had to decide how we would counter that. And for me, we've got to have sprinters on the outside to say, yeah, go on then. You go and empty those spaces and we'll run into them. What did we present them with? We present them with a Bob Marley Eze standing on left-hand side who's not good at sprinting behind anybody because that's not his game, right? He's a positional player that sees paths, shots, how to receive it. He wants to be in crowd scenes because he can read them. He can create avenues. When he's on the outside, now he's thinking, I better run up and down. I've got to run up and down because I can see what they're doing. This is not me, but I've got to do it. He's not suited to that role. And he encouraged him on. You know, if I'm the manager, I'm saying to Matty Cash, go. Keep running him. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do the shift. It's not his game, is it? That's on us, by the way. Yeah. That's on us. That's a misuse of resources. You know, and go ahead, mate. Sorry.
But point blank, Clive, do you worry? No, I hate using the word worry because, first of all, I'm a worrier. That's why my friend called me Whiskers. But, like, do you think that a performance like this with Eze getting ghosted by Matty Cash and losing his man and the goals coming from that side and him having 13 touches in the half is going to fundamentally influence Mikel's attitude towards using him in that role? And, like, there are certain moments in a player's time at a club that have an impact on how their manager sees them and thinks they can deploy them. I mean, there's so many reasons why it may not have worked, but it really didn't work. And he gets hooked at halftime. Like Marino getting hooked at halftime, you could tell yourself a story about he's been played a lot. It wasn't a game for his style of player, blah, blah, blah. Eze getting hooked at halftime, it's a clear response to how they've scored plus his lack of involvement. I get that.
So,
but, like, to bring on a not fit Leo for Eze, who is, we think, a pretty close analog stylistically, it's an uncomfortable look. And I'm just wondering what you think, if any, there are sort of ramifications for that.
Well, fortunately, my memory's not too short. Though I'm getting older, it's getting shorter. Yeah. But one of the best attacking performances I've seen this season was Nottingham Forest at home. And Eze played wide left, and he was brilliant. Right? So, and Madueke played on wide right, and he was brilliant. And we destroyed them. Right? So he can play that role. The difference is for this game, where Aston Villa wanted that space. They wanted to challenge us in that space. For this game, it was the wrong pick. And he can play left. I've seen him play left for England. I've seen him play left 10 for years for Palace. He played left for us and done reasonably well. Oh, by the way, he's played 10 and I felt he hasn't been high touch enough. But then once I realised he's not cut and paste to Odegaard and I realised what he's doing as the shot totals was going up, I'm thinking, okay, now I know what he's doing. He's working with his partner and I'm thinking, okay, that's what he's trying to do. So you have to rewire your analysis sort of thing. For this game, mate, honestly, we'd have been better off. And by the way, Martinelli had a shocker against Chelsea, by the way, when he came on.
Yeah.
And if he'd have picked Martinelli to start this game, I'd have been concerned. But he was the right player to play in this game. You know, but again, he's not fit. So we have a situation where we have fitness causing structural changes to our team, returning players who are not quite fit, and then you got a few players that are tired because they've been overplayed due to the injuries that we've had.
Yeah.
You put all that together and you're going to Aston Villa, top of the form table, and we still battered them and got 15 shots. And I'm having a moan up about structural issues when really, if we were a bit more efficient in the goal, it'd be a much nicer conversation to have if we'd have just some of the long shots went in, etc., etc.
The problem I have is with any analysis, like, oh, Marino could have played Saka in that one time, but the ball was too heavy, or Saka had the cut back to White, but the shot was too straight, or Odegaard had that great shot, but it was just tipped over. There's so many little moments we could have scored again. But if you're going to tell me that we're going to concede 2.1 XG and 43 touches in our box every game, I don't want to talk about the chances we missed. We're going to lose more than we win, and we're not going to win anything. So fundamentally, this game for me, if you want to access it by looking at the moments we could have scored goals, that's certainly the more interesting part of football, but it's not the recipe for us winning anything. And yeah, there was execution on the last ball and the last action in their box, around their box, when we could have scored. Obviously, Declan Rice puts the ball across the box in the 90th +4, and Nani Madueke can't wrap his foot around it. And if he does, Gyokeres is standing there waiting for the rebound, or the ball goes back to the other side to be tapped in, or maybe it finds its way past Emi, but instead it hits the side netting. Even if he just gets it on target and it's saved and it goes out for a corner, the game ends and you have a 1-1. But
also, They had loads of those moments.
But that's my point, Paul. They could have won this 4-1. So I mean, like, it's silly to say we missed our moments.
Yeah. They loved this game. They absolutely, before they got to beating us 2-1 at the end and giving us a giant swing in the pebbles, before that moment, they loved this game. This was the game they were crying out for. And I'm like, why are we playing the game they want? And the fact that we had good attacking moments is great. They were fine with that too. That was the game they wanted. They thought, we'll attack, they'll attack. Look, they've seen this movie before against many, many teams. If they're playing PSG or City or Arsenal at home, this is their dream game, and they win more than they lose.
Yeah.
Clive?
I think it's the sort of game that you could pick so many threads on if you choose to. It's interesting Arteta spoke about the giveaways. That's what really hurt him. The giveaways. And by the way, the Eze sub, which I felt was an angry sub. I felt he subbed him. He didn't care, mate. Because he knew how many minutes Trossard had in him.
Yeah, for a guy who wasn't fit to play a half.
But I'm going to, because of those standards, were nowhere near our standards on defending. And he hooked him, mate. And he told everybody why he hooked him. Right? Yep. So that's an angry substitution. Right? So he was obviously angry with what transpired, how we looked. Probably he recognized that we didn't have enough continuity from the left. And by the way, I never thought I'd say it, but Trossard's a better defender than Eze. And Martinelli and Trossard, we used to say, well, he's playing Martinelli because Martinelli's a better defender than Trossard. But Trossard's improved over time and he knows what to do. And now we feel more secure with him there, right? So it took a bit of time. So I felt it was an angry thing. And Arteta spoke about the giveaways. If you watch the giveaways again, they led to big chances, really big chances. So from his perspective, he's walked away with that. From my perspective, I've walked away with structural issues caused by absentees and introduction of Martin Odegaard that have changed how we build and changed where we stand, which for me has led to out-possession problems. Right? So that's how I viewed the game. Right? So, and it made those 10 look like luxury players as we were being transitioned. For me, it's all about starting positions and making sure we build as a group, build compact, and then we don't have those gaps. And don't occupy space too early because it better work. You best not give it away if you do that, because our ability to counter press isn't there because we're already there. We're already high. And that's my issue. But hey, look, the way I'd like to see football doesn't mean everyone else has got to agree with it. If we want to stand our fullbacks there and Calafiori nods in across on the back post, you won't find me complaining. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. But on this day, it cost us, I felt.
I want to talk about Saka a bit, Gyokeres for sure, some individual analysis that we haven't done. I think we've kind of talked Odegaard to death without invoking his name so much, really, just by expressing that there were some structural issues, despite the fact that he also influenced the game in a lot of positive ways. So there may be a little more access there. I will mention, by the way, Calafiori will miss the Wolves game with a suspension, and it was the best possible time for him to get a yellow card. So that's, I guess, a silver lining in a way, because he was one yellow away from the suspension. And if he was going to get it, the Wolves game at home would certainly be the one you'd look for. So the subs will be one we want to talk about, how we're thinking about the title race. I have thoughts. And maybe a little bit about how we manage this week with games that will be regarded as quote unquote easier, but still need to be won. It's 53 minutes into the podcast and you have no idea which brands to give your business. And that's a problem. I mean, let's just call it what it is. This is a podcast about analyzing problems. That's about as big a problem as they come. And so I will tell you quite obviously, I am on my way to Europe, which means I am making sure all my devices have their NordVPN on it. When I'm at the Wolves game, that's all well and good, but it's a night game. I'm going to want to watch the 3 p.m.s, and I can, because I can Nord back to the U.S. and watch the 3 p.m.s. Because Nord lets you watch things that aren't available in your area. So next time someone sends you a video and says it's the most hilarious, best football video that's ever been made, you need to watch it immediately, and you click on it and it says not available in your area. Sorry, excuse me. It is available in your area. Nord's an app. You put it on your device. You click browse in this particular location. You can watch shows that aren't available in your location yet. You can sign up for streaming services in places where they cost less money. You can keep threats off your device when you go to those dodgy streams because it has threat protection. And we have a silly deal for you from Nord. It is a tremendous value. you get 4 months on top of the discount you're already being offered. So you get a huge discount off your Nord plan, 4 additional months on top. It's totally risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. You just go to nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. That's nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision, nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And if you want to start a e-commerce business, there are certain things you have to be able to do. You have to be able to sell on TikTok Shop. You have to be able to sell on Facebook. You have to be able to sell on Instagram, all those things. TikTok Shop, like, I don't go there because obviously, when I show my ID, they're like, sir, you're too old for this website. You can't go. But there are other people that go. And there's a lot of product being sold there. If you want to sell your art, if you want to sell your designs, if you want to sell your merch, you have to be in those places. And the way you get to those places is by building a site on Shopify. With Shopify, you just upload the images, you write the descriptions, you tell it the price you want, and it gives you these beautiful high-end looking sites that like literally Fortune 500 companies use. It makes it very simple, no code. It does things like cart optimization and checkout, the stuff that really good e-commerce businesses should do. It then automatically, through integrations, allows you to put those businesses on those social media sites where you need to be selling. So it's just a turnkey solution for building the best e-commerce platform. And when you woke up this morning, you're like, I wish there was a turnkey solution for building the best e-commerce platform and like a best e-commerce business. And it's crazy because you woke up thinking that, and then you just heard about it on this podcast. What are the odds that that would happen? 100%, because it just did. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? It's pretty soon going to be 2026, guys. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Send them for them.
Indeed.
Let it. Okay. Paul, just can you quickly tell me your thoughts on the Bukayo Saka performance? So I think when I look at my notes, every note is Saka does this, Saka did this, Saka near, oh, close for Saka, Saka did this. I think it felt to me like Saka, it feels to me, not felt to me, like Saka's really playing with a chip on his shoulder. He's playing angry. He's playing with an urgency to take more responsibility on. Sometimes really to his credit, by the way, he creates the goal that we score. Sometimes to his detriment, where I thought he actually shot in situations where keeping the ball and finding better options might have worked. But to win anything, your best players have to take on responsibility. He feels like he's taking on responsibility. He had the yellow card for dissent where he just was really uncharacteristically fiery. Bukayo Saka clearly wants it. They all want it. You could see that from the reaction when the winning goal was scored. But what do you think of his performance and the extent to which Saka's maybe even pressing to do more than usual?
It was really good. Look, everybody took a lot of flack. You had your intro, which talked about kind of, how we react when we lose and people go in different directions. It reminds me of the Tolstoy quote. You will remember it, Elliot, about
I remember all of his quotes, so you have to tell me which one you're talking about in this particular instance.
What about the happy families one? All happy families are alike. All unhappy families are unhappy in their way.
Mm.
And like, we lost, so everybody's guilty for different people, and no supporter likes another supporter's view of why we lost. It's very much the witches of Salem. It's only a question of how many witches and who we start with.
Yeah.
But we can't. None of us can agree who's the biggest witch, and who we should start with. And so losing is not pretty. It doesn't bring out our best side. We go looking to make sure it never happens again by addressing all of the problems. And so players like Saka got quite a lot of criticism at the end of the game. I got to say, I think he was very good. He could have been better. He could have his end product on a number of occasions. His passes in critical areas at critical moments could have been tightened up somewhat. But by and large, that was Bukayo Saka, the Bukayo Saka we know and love. Yes, he made that goal, but some notable mentions along the way. Rice forcing the turnover, which was clearly a part of our game, given the amount of pressing we did up that end of the pitch. Odegaard with the reviving the triangle on the right, puts Saka into the killer position, and Trossard sweeps up at the far post. Fantastic goal, but it's absolutely Bukayo Saka at his best, ghosting in, reading the situation, and turning them inside out by getting the other side of them. He's in the house, so to speak, and behind them and turning them around. And he did plenty of good stuff. To your point on the taking the leadership, like I think he gets quite a bit of airtime from folks like, I'm just going to make up some names, I don't know this is a fact, but Thierry Henry, even Harry Kane, these kinds of players who say, this is your team, it's your franchise, you got to step up.
People are going to
man.
love the franchise reference there. It's a very American sports reference. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I know some Americans. I've been here some time.
So
some of my best friends, some of my best friends have Americans as friends. So,
yeah,
I haven't made that mistake myself.
Look, I think if you look at a football match as just whether the last action came off, you're going to have a very specific perspective. But first of all, he makes the goal, obviously. He had 4 shots. He created multiple chances. He was tied with Odegaard for 8 shot creating actions. He had 0.5 XG, 0.5 expected assisted goals. So one expected goal or assist, which is obviously an elite output. And I look at my notes from the game, and it's just a highlight reel of Saka doing things, some of which came off and some of which didn't. But I'll tell you this much. I didn't want him to come off for Nani. I really didn't. I just felt, first of all, Nani Madueke is such a threat 1v1. But I don't have the confidence in him getting the last action right just yet. And the thing about Saka is, if the ball's at his feet with the game on the line, I still just feel a little better about it. And look, he may have been totally shagged out, and you don't want to risk, for the 10 extra minutes, you don't want to risk losing him for 6 games or something. So I get it. But I thought anything good we were going to do in the game was going to come from him. And in part, some of that's just due to the fact that, like, that's the side of the pitch that the ball was building. I mentioned this on a Friday night show. One big difference in Martin Odegaard is when Martin Odegaard is on the pitch, the extent to which Rice and Zubamendi are influencing build-up matters. And one thing Odegaard does a lot is he comes and gets the ball and carries it. We did not see that in the Zubamendi Rice as a midfields. There was not that same carrying dynamic. And you look at this game again, and Martin Odegaard had 50 carries of the ball, 13 more than the next closest guy, who's Declan Rice, and 17 more than Zubamendi, 16 more than Saka. So that getting the ball and bringing it forward, and I just think that is a change in dynamic. Now, Clive, a performance that I think we also probably should spend a little time on is Victor Gyokeres. And, it's not one of these things where we just want to find the players who played poorly and stick the boot in, but it wasn't a good performance. And a lot of people, I think, are really on tilt about it. I don't think you need to be that way, because before he was injured, we saw him rounding into the kind of form where we were devastated to be losing him. The Burnley game, the Newcastle game, those were really good data points. At Letty, he had 2 goals. I mean, they were a little bit scrappy, but that's great. You want a guy in the box scoring scrappy goals. This was just a nothing performance. And I don't know how you want to analyze it, because to me, he came in, he wasn't involved, he didn't influence the game. But the thing that was really standing out to me also is it wasn't sticking. There were some long balls that went to him, and it just wasn't sticking. So is there much to say about this Gyokeres performance at all?
Yeah, so I was talking to Tom about this on the weekend, and he used to have a few concerns. I wouldn't mind me saying that, Tom. And I sort of allayed those concerns, and I said, you look at the centre forward market that was out there this year. Obviously, Ekitike was snapped up by Liverpool. There was Sesko, and there was Gyokeres, right? So Sesko, Gyokeres, I was in Sesko land because basically I thought, he's like Kai Havertz. We get 2 of them, great. And I thought about it a bit more wisely. And actually, the difference in profile is important. To have somebody who's a true 9, stays in between the sticks and runs the sides, runs the channels, is great. That's what we needed, because we've got Marino, we've got Kai Havertz that could be quite similar. Kai's got a bit more speed about him. To add on Sesko with duplication, right? Redundancy. That's my word of the weekend. Redundancy. So I saw the reasons for Gyokeres. When he came in, obviously he wasn't quite fit enough, but got better and better and better. Newcastle, great. Some nice, easy home games where he's done well in patches. The Burnley game, which I didn't see live, but I heard he was really, really good. And so I expect him to come back and do well in this game. And to be honest, Elliot, at the start of the second half, he was on the pitch occupying people, and we had our best part of the game. Odegaard got space, got shots. So structurally, again, he provides something that you can't ignore. If you look at his individual actions, they were poor. In fact, we were on top in the second half, and he played the ball out for a throw-in on our right-hand side. And after that, we lost control of the game for about 10 minutes.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It was a real blow, and they got back into it again. But he does, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but he does play centre forward, which stops their centre backs coming out and pressing into our midfielders and doing things because they've got nothing to do. He does play centre forward, and I think we missed that aspect. But he's got to be better than this. And my worry is, to my eye, the things that he did at the start of the season, which I sort of explained away while he adapted, that he actually got better at, he went back to being almost worse than before.
Yeah.
And then I've got to say, well, actually, mate, you were holding up okay on some occasions. You were linking okay. You were getting down the sides and winning some of the races. In this game, nothing. Do you know? And I saw a tweet from someone today, and it makes you think how defined the lines are. If Timber doesn't head that ball away from him at Chelsea, his confidence could go through the roof because he scores that goal. We win last minute at Chelsea, and we're still singing his name. And he's bouncing around the pitch. Sometimes I don't think back too often, but I always think back to the Nicholas Anelka in the FA Cup semi-final in 1999 against Manchester United. He had a goal disallowed, and he was a young lad, and he was umming and ahhing whether about staying or not, and he ended up going. Goal disallowed, we'd have won that semi-final, and I always think it's a turning point in his career, and sometimes it's a turning point to go your way. That's what Gyokeres needs, a big goal. And that Chelsea goal was one he needed to go his way. And I think he needs that to find himself, because I don't think he's belligerent enough. I think he's deferring to other people. I think he's looking to knock it off. Mate, just get the ball at your feet, turn and hit it. Don't worry about the outcome. But ragdoll people around, turn and hit it, be aggressive. Don't worry about a bad touch or looking ugly on the ball. You need to make people make changes in their defensive line to come and deal with you. If you're going to be passive, we might as well keep Marino on, who's better technically, better connecting, and more intelligent and standing in spaces. That's the truth. Be aggressive, run. Be relentless. That's what he needs to do. And he's just lost a little bit of his way. So I'm not prepared to give up on him yet, Elliot, because I've seen the good Gyokeres live. And I've not forgotten. But, mate, he could do with a big game. I hope he starts against Bruges and he could do with a big game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that simple. He needs to play himself back into form, and we need to play ourselves back into playing with him. I mean, one thing that's hard is when you go from playing Marino at center forward to Gyokeres at center forward, it's just a totally different dynamic, and I think your structure has to support what
it
you're
should be
playing
different, but it wasn't in this case, was it really?
No.
It wasn't really.
Not really.
So, yeah.
No. And that, by the way, that was a talking point in the summer. We're going to play differently with Gyokeres up front, right? Well, are we? We went right back to Marino up front, and that worked for a while, playing the way we were used to. I think, Paul, one thing that was really weird, too, is just we were on top after halftime. We looked really good. We got the goal, and then we went to pieces. And there was a period where we were really bad, and we could have conceded multiple times after we scored the goal. And Mikel spoke about that. The second half, we started really well, much more positive. We generated chances, scored the goal, and my feeling was that we were going to go on and win the game. That was mine too. We could have lost it before, again, with two very dangerous individual giveaways, and we didn't. We had two chances to score, the last one with the ball across to Declan, and we didn't capitalize on that. I think he means the ball across from Declan. The next goal kick went long. It goes there. Second ball. We put it away for a throw-in. They play fast. A lot of chaos in the box, and they managed to put the ball top corner, which is the quality of the league. So that's the summary. Pretty succinct summary. It matches my notes, but anything you observed in the period after we scored that they did that caused us to lose control? This was definitely a game for me where Mikel made the subs that you might expect to make under the circumstances. I just don't think they did much to help us control a game that we never got any control of.
I didn't see anything substantially different later on in the game. I think they just they took what they had and they fed off that additional energy. I'm with you in that I don't think you can just write the game off as fatigue from our side. I think we had the energy to play this game. But hey, if they don't have extra energy, I mean, they win it in the last moment. And you could say they wanted it more in the last moment, but look at what our players did to hold them off in that final moment, that final play. And what had preceded that was Declan Rice charging up the pitch and putting in an unbelievable ball across the face of their goal that if somebody had gambled, if somebody had that moment, maybe if that's Martinelli there, Martinelli does a Martinelli thing and thinks, I'm faster than anybody else. I'm going to make sure if the ball comes in, I'm going to be there for it. It's the easiest goal. This is the one, like, I get it because in the heat of the moment and all the things that's going on, there's a lot going on. But, like, if you're going to play for the simplest goal in the world, it's if he puts it in here and if I make the run, I have a much easier shot than if I wait for a cutback and I have 3 defenders who've gathered in front of me.
Yeah.
So in that moment, it switches from them attacking their goal to them attacking our goal. And it's a mad scramble. We're throwing bodies everywhere. The amount of chaos density in that particular goal is kind of feeds into my overall chaos theory. I don't think the final part of the game is that different. We brought on Martinelli instead of Trossard, and Trossard has a couple of giveaways too, it should be noted. For all the technical security, he plays us into at least one serious counter that they don't score from. But like just like Eze, just like quite a few other players, and that tells you he's not fully dialed in. He wasn't fully fit, and he gets yanked before the end. Probably Arteta had the same vibe of, oh shit, dagger through the chest again in terms of giveaways, and he started feeling it was coming down that side again. I don't think there's anything hugely different apart from they have the energy of the crowd, and the swell of that energy helps them in the last 5 minutes more than it helps us. And yeah, you can get time at some stage. Energy matters. The old Trafford kind of Alex Ferguson on the touchline with the crowd behind him. Yeah.
Clive?
Yeah, I think this is where we need to read the room. Read the room. Halftime beers has gone in, and it was getting lively in there, and you had to read the room, and we kept going for it, mate. I mean, look what Declan Rice was in 92nd minute on the left wing. We kept going for it, mate. Just keep your eyes, if you want to watch this game, keep your eyes on Calafiori and Ben White. Just keep your eyes on them to know our intention. But when they got back in, sometimes we make big runs and you get back in, you're standing there, but you're thinking, please don't pass it to my man because I'm blowing. And for those who played, you know what I mean? I spent the last 10 years of my career blowing in the wrong place. And when Calafiori got passed on the inside, you think that doesn't happen if he's sharp, right? Because he's just stuck in the mud, right? And they're going behind him, and we're slow to get out to people, and just little things where you start just standing spaces, you know. And they brought on a couple of forwards. They brought on Buendia, who's a 10. They brought on Sancho, who's a 10-stroke winger. And these boys can handle the ball, you know. And they started to manipulate the ball. And when you see people can handle the ball, you know what you do? You sit a little bit. But then we don't. Then we go. And then we commit to it. I mean, I'm not sure what you can say, really. We really, really tried. We really, really tried. We did some really good things. If you want to look at the game as a whole, when I did the rewatch, I was more upset that we didn't get that first goal. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think, and when they got that first goal, they could settle into their game plan. So then we equalised, which upset them. And if we're at home, we win that game just to momentum and crowd noise, etc. And we were just going to win it. And then it sort of stopped, and then they made offensive changes, and I'm not sure we could do much more with our changes. I just don't think a couple of our changes were dialed in enough on all sides of the game. I felt Noni was a little bit off on the defensive side of the game. I thought Gyokeres was okay, but just going through the motion. I don't think they connected to the game in a positive way, you know. And whereas Aston Villa's substitutes had a slightly better, not much better, Elliot. Not much better, seriously, not much better, but just a little bit better than ours. And it just swung the momentum slightly. And I do think fatigue played a part, because it's not just about Villa being in Europe. They're playing young boys. We're playing Bayern Munich, the top 3 in the world. And when, after Spurs, then going to Chelsea, who ganged up and waited for us, right? And And so the level of intensity of the recent games that we've had, it caught us out with the injuries that we've had. But that, you know what? He said something on Saturday that really made me sort of calm myself, even though it didn't sound too calm in his reaction. It's 1 point. Yeah, it's 1 point. It's 1 point. It's 1 point. And I never worry about that as long as we learn the lessons. And that's where my sort of frustration came in. Are we going to learn the lessons of what we've done before and not let this continue? You know, and that's the key for me. So how we introduce these players going forward is important, because we've got a really good squad and a really good team.
Look, I mean, the Sunderland game was annoying. And the way they got a late equalizer and the way we were unable to win was annoying. Okay? It annoyed me. But the Sunderland game in and of itself was not reflective of any particular issue in my mind, in the sense that I thought we played like Arsenal. You know, okay, so they scored a goal that was uncharacteristic. Gabby getting beaten to a header, some things you don't expect. But it was 1.91 expected goals to 0.4. We outshot them 17-6. Okay? Like, they had 7 touches in our penalty box. Okay? So I'm not trying to say that was a perfect game. But my point is that I don't think that game is indicative of anything about Arsenal playing in a way other than what I expect of them, which is a way that's good enough to win the title. The reason this game is worrying to me is not because we didn't clear the ball out of our box late when there was chaos. We should have. If Nketiah makes good contact, if Gyokeres finds a way to get in front of the ball, I don't know what he's doing there. Like, we get the ball out of our box, it's a draw, fine. But to your point, it's 1 point versus 0 points. We want 3. It is the 43 touches. It is the 2.1 XG. It is the 15 shots or whatever it was. Like, it is that situation, the extent to which we did not look like Arsenal, that is going to stick in my craw until I watch us play another game or two where we look like Arsenal again. And it may be until Gabby or Saliba or both are back that we fully have that. It may be readjusting to the dynamics of having a Zubimendi, Rice, Odegaard midfield. Those are all possibilities. I think there's some big decisions for Mikel to make. But look, he doesn't throw players under the bus, and that's something I really like about him. This is as close as he's going to come to throwing a player under the bus, right? He said, quote, "We're going to have to learn from it. The way we conceded the first goal as well, very far from our standards. So they are learnings that we can take for ourselves and then give credit to the opponent as well, because I think they're a really good side." That's as close as he comes to throwing a player under the bus. That's a message. In a week where Ruben Amorim was asked about Kobe Mainu and laughed at his name being invoked, laughed. In a week where Maresca said Tosin was bad. Basically, he was asked, why didn't you use more, senior players? He said, one of the oldest players on the pitch was Tosin. How do you think he did? Not a great look, right? In a week where Liverpool are melting down over a poorly managed relationship with Mohamed Salah, who they're trying to engineer a sale for, I'm sure. Like, I think Mikel is a good man manager, but that's as close as he comes to calling someone out. So it'd be interesting to keep an eye on that situation. I do just want to kind of zoom out. And by the way, we haven't really talked about our goal. I don't think we need to. Declan Rice obviously does an amazing job. There were chances for us to win it. There were chances for us to lose it. I don't think us winning this game would have been reflective of what we deserve, but football isn't really about what you deserve, right? So it could have gone either way. I would just say this. We have to look at the title race big picture for a second here. First of all, City lost at Villa Park. So if your whole thing is, title winners don't lose these games, well, they lost this game. Are they going to win the title? My feeling, Paul, is that the Premier League is changing. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend there's parity. There's not parity. But there is a level of competitiveness in the Premier League that is pretty different from the way it used to be. I mean, Liverpool won the league last season with 84 points. No one was close. We were the closest 10 points behind. But this season, I mean, you look at it. Look at the compression in the league. Look at the point totals. Manchester United are on 22. Chelsea are on 25. 3 points separate them, right? Bournemouth on 20. Palace on 26. That's 4th to 13th. I mean, it is incredibly compressed, and there's points being dropped here and there. Chelsea were title contenders a week ago. They're 8 points back now. Liverpool had won the title in September. They're 10 points back now. right? City are only 2 back of us, but City had just lost to Newcastle and Bayer Leverkusen and were the crisis club just 2 weeks ago after we had beaten Bayern and Spurs. I look at it this way. I think we need to hit 85 points to win the title. 17 wins will do it. You get a draw here, 17 wins will do it. I'm curious how you're thinking about this title race, Paul, because I don't think we should have in our mind the title races of years gone by when if you draw 1 or 2, your title chances are gone. I think there's just going to be more spills and slip-ups, and we have to manage our emotion as a club, as a fan base, through this title race. I think with the paradigm of a lower point total title race now than what was the case in the past. Do you agree with that? Or do you think someone, probably City, has that 90-point season still in them and we have to be thinking that way?
Well, I'm not seeing it so far from City. I mean, that is one of the reassuring aspects. They concede a lot of goals and they can be got at. And unless they change something, they can have a better second half of the season. But that's normally built on a team that's pretty robust from the previous season. They've got everything to prove. You can't just say, "Oh, here goes City again," coming into the second half of the season. You can't say that with these guys. We got to assume they're going to be better. But why wouldn't we be better? As long as we can get our defensive line back to having key personnel available for most games, we've got to where we've got so far this season, still working on getting our attack ticking. Our defense has been really good. Our midfield has been strong. We've got a whole bunch of players coming back on the attacking end that you would say, ignoring this result, and it's been a rough few games where we've scrambled results and held it together. But you could say we're coming into the part of the season where we can actually start to show the attack, and we've done that in recent games. Our attack has begun to light things up. I don't know if the narrative in the media has caught up to it fully. It's beginning to. They're beginning to get away from set piece FC and starting to talk about our open play. It'll be missed for this game because there's a bigger story to look at. But the attacking end of the pitch is starting to really have some options, some flair. So there's every reason to think we can go into the second half of the season a stronger team than the first half. So if people are worried, City may come strong, or outside of City, who is there? Do we really think Aston Villa's winning this? I don't think so. Is Crystal Palace? No. Does Chelsea have what it takes? I think they've gone out of their way to prove that they do not. So it's us and City. And for those who are worried about, there's also the narrative, mentally we always have a tendency to, but that's a different Arsenal. That is not this Arsenal. These guys have broad shoulders. They believe they're ready. They really believe it. Will it get nervy towards the end? Yeah, but for both sides.
Yeah.
And I think we can be the stronger team in this. If we can keep our spine largely fit for the rest of the run-in, which is an if, but it shouldn't be a huge if, but it might be because it's Arsenal, then we shouldn't, to your point, we shouldn't fall into the mode of nervous ninnies who are losing our shit. That's not where we should be. We can be stronger. We can get better. We need a little bit of non-bad luck in terms of fitness.
That's it. Yep.
And it's on.
That's it.
And it's going to be a great run-in and a great battle. And we shouldn't have thought it was going to be anything else.
I think anybody who has any thoughts on this that they want to address needs to first make sure they take a deep breath and remember this. We are first in the Premier League and first in the Champions League. We lost at Villa Park, and that sucks, and it was gutting, and it's horrible, and it makes the title race closer than we wanted it to be. We are first in the league, rightfully, through the hardest fixture list so far. We've looked at the away games we've played. We played at Villa Park now. We played at Newcastle. We played at Anfield. We played at Chelsea, right? Those are out of the way. We're first in the league and first in the Champions League. Doesn't mean everything's perfect. Doesn't mean we're going to win the league. But we have to address the title race from the standpoint that we are currently atop it. Okay? Mikel said the following on coping with the ups and downs in the Premier League. Quote, it's 5 months into the competition, and so far we've coped. But we're going to have to prove that we can cope again and again and again and again for another 6 months. That's the level. If we think we are going to be in this moment with 10 points clear, I think we're living in a different world. And that's it. Everybody wants it to be easy so we don't have to be stressed, but it's not going to be easy. So, Clive, I think the one thing that gives me pause, so I'm going to say one thing that people won't like, but I'm just going to tell you so you know how this turns out. If our injury situation stays as it is now, we will not win the title or the Champions League. So I'm sorry to spoil that for you. I have said this from day one. You can talk squad depth all you want. It sounds great. It's lovely. Squad depth has helped us stay top so far this season. But you win things with your stars. And if Gabby and Saliba aren't fit, if Saka isn't fit, if Rice isn't fit, we're not going to win the title. So that part has to work out. The other thing I will say is our identity is our defense. And the one thing I want to ask you about, Clive, as it pertains to the future in our title race, I think one of the reasons our defense is the best in the world is because you can pick our best back five in your sleep. Raya, Timber, Gabby, Saliba, Calafiori. That's our back five. You put in front of that Zubamendi and Rice, boom. There's our identity. There's our control. There's our out-of-possession shape. Boom, you can pick it. It's easy. Saka on the right. I think there's a lot of questions about what goes on in front of that now and how Mikel wants to pick that. Now, maybe you say, well, with the rest of that, you can mix and match and play around. But what do you think of that idea? The idea that Mikel's still integrating. Let's not forget, a lot of new parts and pieces. And I don't think we've fully integrated them. And Kai's to come back. So how important is it, if at all, for Mikel to start to really land on a solution ahead of that back five I named, or even back seven, if you want to say, with Zubi and Rice, that he feels is his lineup for his life? Because when we go into these big games, he's going to want to know who his team is, I think, for these big fixtures the rest of the way.
Yeah, he's got time to arrive at the 11, Elliot. But I must admit, we've been spoken about and we've been crowned world and European and Premier League champions by November. And why was that? Because of how the team looked, and with key people there. And this is even when Big Gabby wasn't there, and so we've done some things with some key people missing, but you can't do with both your centre backs doing it, right? So the reasons why is that people can see what's on the pitch, the balance, and they can see what's on the bench. And they think, whoa, what happens when Arsenal then get all these players back? They're going to be brilliant. But that's my worry, right? That integration, the words I used was final form. When we found our final form, is it going to be as effective as it has been over the last 18 games? Where we've had to do some mismatching around. But actually, we found a balance that has really worked. And now we've flipped to a different balance, and I'm not sure it's working the same. Mm-hmm. But I really mean that. I'm not sure it's working the same. Do you see what I mean?
Right. You're not saying it's not working the same. You're saying you're not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But
it's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
But I've got some thoughts. And one of our good friends sent me a message on Saturday, and he sort of said, you know what? Odegaard sort of come in, and we're sort of like, and he's unbelievable. He's the leader of the orchestra, but he did sort of step into areas of other people that lead the orchestra, and I wonder if he told them he was going to do it. And I thought that was so interesting, So when you have a situation where you have people that have coped and have led, and we have been a team that lost its way when he came out, and we found other ways, and I think we gotta make sure we don't lose the stuff that we've gained while introducing key people. When Kai comes back, what's he gonna do? Stand on the right hand side as well? Do you see what I mean? Some people I know.
The pitch might have a sinkhole on the right hand side.
You got Kai, you got Odegaard, you got you've got Marino, you got Saka, you got Madueke, all want to be there. And I talk to Liverpool people, and I sort of say, mate, you brought in all these players. They really all want to stand on your left. Gakpo, Verts, Ekitike, Isak, all like the left channel. They all like it. And you've unbalanced your team. I'm laughing and giggling. You've unbalanced your team. Hold on, are we doing the same thing? Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's reduce the span of control of certain people. Say, no, you work with him, the centre forward. Not get Timber back, because Timber and Saka are the best in Europe. As soon as we can get them back together again, don't stand in his way. Those two are dominating everybody. And the left is still up for debate for me, still. What that looks like. I've got thoughts, but I'm not ready to go with them yet. Centre-backs, no worries. And the centre midfield too are so good that the guy beneath them in Norgard, I feel sorry for, because he can't get close to them. However, I do feel there have been game states in the last 50 minutes of games where he could have got his boots dirty.
Yeah.
Even in this game, we ran out of sub, but he could have got his boots dirty, right? So we just got to make sure that we keep people active on the pitch, sharing the responsibility to allow us to be more diversified in attack, but also protect ourselves off the ball. If we get back to that, that game won't happen again. And just like that, it won't happen again. So that's my hope anyway.
Paul?
I hear where Clive's going. I do think that the first experiment you try again with Martin Odegaard on the pitch is Calafiori, Trossard and Rice on the left-hand side, and let that do its thing. With Victor Gyokeres on the pitch, hopefully in form, he certainly can have a tendency to go to the left, to peel off to the left, that he doesn't have to run into that same space that Odegaard trammels. And there is a balance that can come. We really yet to see it this season, but that could be. I'm not like Clive. It's I don't know what I'm sure of, but that could work. We've seen those three. Yeah. And it hasn't needed a center forward coming to that side to make it work. In fact, the space on that side, the dominance to the right can work for the space on the left. Rice and Calafiori both want to gallop into space or to run beyond to meet whatever comes in from the right-hand side. Trossard likes to meet whatever comes in from the right-hand side. So I'm hopeful, but the problem is if it's not Trossard on the left, then you start to run into trouble, I think, in terms of what those options might be. Martinelli's still a super sub for me.
Yeah.
And maybe it can be if we have behind him Rice can cover that side of the pitch, but not when he has to do too many other things, which he did in this game. Had we got a back line that had structure, a midfield and back line that were integrated, maybe Rice can allow for Calafiori and Eze on that left-hand side. But it does need to be built on the cover that back line and our midfield can provide, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got more immediate issues. Ben White, I think, did as well as you can ask him to do in this game. I mean, he's back to now having to play a ton in high energy games when he was only just back fit. We did give Raya stock rising in the instant reaction, by the way, didn't come up in this podcast, but obviously had a couple critical interventions. He had that one where he came out to get the ball off the toes of Rodgers, which was great. This week is a weird one because I think everybody's good, we've made it to the point where we can rest everybody now. I don't think that's how you want to approach this. First of all, I think this team needs 2 4-1, 4-0 victories where the opposition doesn't get a sniff and we get some players firing and Eze gets a goal and Gyokeres gets a goal and everyone feels connected again. And we need these next 2 games to be nice, confident victories. We need the Wolves game to be the 8-0 and not just because I'm going to be there and want to see goals. I mean, maybe some of that, but we need that. And you could say, well, that's not going to feel great if then they're all shagged out and they drop points in the next game at Everton or whatever anyway. But Clive, what do you think of approaching this week? Because to me, rotating the hell out of it makes a lot of sense until you have another accident and suddenly you've got broken cannons on back pages. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, we just need to deal with the next couple of games and keep people healthy and get people back to fitness. Because although they're on the pitch, they can't last, right? So they're struggling. And Ben White, I don't know how he's done what he's done. Seriously, how does he do that? Just comes back in and maybe tries even too hard, so on occasions to try to make an impact. And so So yeah, incredible. So just keep people ticking over and hopefully win the next couple. You know, if we don't win in Bruges, not the end of the world. Hopefully we win. But if we don't, as long as we don't lose, that's really important. And then, but then obviously Wolves, we need to get back on the run again. And we do have a set of home fixtures that we can really do well with. And as you will see at the weekend, Elliot, at home we're quite good and the atmosphere is really good. And teams, they do lucky to get nailed out of there. You know, so yeah, it's a problem. It's a small problem, should I say? It's a small problem. Something that's bothering me a little bit is as we've been crowned the world champions, people are playing us like the world champions.
Whoa! Chelsea just sent you a cease and desist. They are world champions. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
As we've been crowned the Premier League champions and European Cup winners, double, people are turning up and they're playing us like that. So the last 3 away games, this is their major day. This is their major
Chelsea,
event.
It was Chelsea's cup final, and look what's happened to them since, right?
Yeah, and Villa, you know, they want it. They want it with us. So this comes back to my circumspection at the start of games, particularly away games. We have to be a bit more simplistic, a little bit more combative, a little bit more direct to really make sure that we don't sort of fall away. We've drawn those 3 away games. We've drawn 2 and lost 1. We were heading towards a draw. To win, we need to be more efficient in the top end of the pitch. Really make those moments matter. If we are going to say we're going to empty midfield and have Declan Rice go and press the ball, which led to our goal, which could have led to other goals, then if we do that, we've got to score. Do you see what I mean? We've got to score. Otherwise, why are we doing it? Do you see what I mean? We've got to score. We've got to make it count. And the gamble didn't quite work. But like I say, I cannot say we're playing bad. We just need to keep working at this. We've had a really tough schedule, but also from a timing point of view, we seem to play all the teams in their best form, like Sunderland, top of the form. Obviously, Chelsea were really flying up to Barcelona, and obviously Aston Villa, who hadn't really beaten much in their run, but given them enough, and they had the game plan, which I don't think we read, to really give us a bloody nose, right? So strange enough, Bruges, let's go and perform. Wolves, I expect us to perform, but my eyes are on Everton already because we can't get to a situation on our 4th away game in the league in a row that we don't get a win. You know, so my eyes are on that game.
And they're playing great. They're in great form.
And they've had a great form.
Every single team we play is in the top 4 when we play them. It's like the weirdest thing.
They're looking forward for Arsenal.
Yeah.
Because we've been crowned, right? So and so again, someone said this to me. They said it's really strange that it's almost like we're the defending champions because the defending champions are all over the front and back pages, right? And they're all over the place, right? So whereas we're the team, so it's like we haven't got the medals yet. Do you see what I mean? We haven't got anything. And it's really strange the position that we've been placed in by the media reaction to us, to our efficiencies and to our structure and to the things that we've done so well. We now have to play like we're carrying the weight of winners and we haven't won. So we need to be more combative, get after these teams a lot more and make sure we're more efficient top end of the pitch.
We have a full week rest before Everton. So it's a chance to get fit. They go to Chelsea a week before they play us, so maybe they get the shit kicked out of them. And then, we hope for the best. But for this week, yes, there's going to be some rest and rotation needed, but I think there is a return to... We need this to feel very much in the rearview mirror by the time we get through Wolves and feel like we're back on track. And by the way, City go to Palace next weekend, and everything could feel flipped again. I just think there's going to be a lot of that dynamic in this title race, and we have to have the bottle for it. Just take a look at the table for a second. That will remind you, if I offered you to be at the top of the table or somewhere else, you'd say top. So we'll take it. There's a lot of things to figure out. This was not an Arsenal game. Look, some boxers clutch and they hold and they work the ropes and they sneak in a body blow. And you may not like watching them, but they can win a lot of boxing matches. And that's who we are. We stood at the center of the ring and just traded punches. And that's never going to work for us. We have to stop doing that. So we'll see how that turns out. This has been a marathon. But, it's always said, there's more to diagnose when it's going wrong. I have a friend who's a surgeon. We were talking the other day, and he's like, look, I like the podcast more when there's problems because there's more to diagnose. He's like, as a doctor, you hope to see a patient and just go, you're doing great, you're really healthy, see you next time. But the doctor appointments that go longer when there are other things you got to dig into. So this is a bit of a diagnosis session, but hopefully not many more of these needed. Paul, thank you very much.
Woohoo!
Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
As a content note, I fly out tonight, so I'll be over there. There'll still be all our usual stuff, instant reactions and all that. Hopefully some fun travelogue stuff that we'll put out over on the Patreon. And then we'll keep content flowing. Just got to figure out what we want to put out and what makes sense to put out as the week goes on. But we won't leave you to stew in the Villa loss by yourself. There'll be stuff to consume, and hopefully a fun win on Wednesday. Okay, we'll leave it there. We love you, and we will talk to you after Arsenal 10.